Okay, I'm going to put two things aside for the sake of this video. The first is the absolutely annoyingly disastrous launch of the Evo SL. Now, this video is being recorded in the middle of January 2025. The shoe was announced back in September 2024, and still, according to Adidas, the official launch is not until March 2025. Yet they've dripped it out randomly to random places little by little, and it's really kind of haphazard where the shoe actually has launched, and none of it is around the actual launch date that they've published. Okay, let's push that aside. The second thing is, let's push aside the just absolutely comically bad lifestyle-oriented launch campaign for this shoe. Now, I have a whole video on that, link in the description if you want to go see that, but let's put that aside too. And with those two things aside, we can clear the air and really now focus on this shoe and talk about the performance of this shoe, because this is actually my 50-mile review, or my initial impressions review of this shoe. And I'm going to say up front, this shoe is very, very good, and it's so good that I can push all that other stuff out of the way and just talk about this shoe. And starting with the specs of this shoe, we have 38.5 mil of foam in the heel, 32 mil of foam in the forefoot, giving you a 6.5 mil drop, because Adidas Adizero likes those half mil drops. Now, the specs for this shoe are a little bit all over the place, but they're all around that. I've seen as low as 30 mil in the forefoot and, around 39 for the top in the heel. But it's in that general ballpark, and it definitely feels that way. The important thing here is the drop at 6.5 mil actually feels lower than that. This shoe actually feels like a 4 to 6 mil drop. It feels actually fairly flat underfoot, which I think some people will quite enjoy. Now, the shoe weighs 230 grams or 8.1 ounces, and that's for the US men's size 9 reference size that is really used everywhere. And as you can see, my pair of these, at least my US men's size 9 pair, come in below that. And from a ride profile standpoint, I would call this a very springy ride. And we'll get to that really in the ride section of this video. But anyone who's run in older Lightstrike Pro from the Adios Pro 3 or that generation knows what I'm talking about. This foam is extremely springy underfoot, and this shoe really exemplifies all of that feel. Moving to the upper of this shoe, I'm going to say this is about as classic of a Adizero upper as we've seen over the past couple of years. This is definitely the most evolved of the older pre-2025 Adizero uppers, meaning it is that more rigid mesh upper. I think it's closest to the Takumi Sen 10 from last year, though it's definitely an evolution. It's got that kind of open weave, though this is a much tighter weave, and it's zoned just like the upper textile was on the Takumi Sen 10, and it fits very nice. I actually really like that textile. I really like the textile in this shoe. I think as far as the Adizero kind of engineered mesh or woven mesh upper that they've been trying to make work in their training shoes for the past couple years, this is probably the best one as far as the textile that they're actually using here. There's a very minimal toe bumper right here, which keeps the material off of the toe. Very simple eyelet chain, which is Adizero design language for 2025 coming out of the Evo 1. It's a very simple and nice eyelet chain. The heel area and the Achilles flare in this shoe are very unique. Adidas has been trying to make a training heel work in the Adizero shoes for many years. They tried with the Boston 12. I think the SL2 from last year was probably the best one, but this is even a better evolution. There is some padding back here, but it's not as bulky as what was in the SL2 last year. There is a little padding and cushion that goes around the Achilles flare as well. And there's still a fairly good Adizero-like pocket back here, though there is a much more stout heel counter in this shoe. This is the best combination of an Adizero design with padding that holds your heel in that they've done yet. So by all means, I think this is probably the best Adizero training upper that they've ever done. I think it actually works quite well. But this upper isn't perfect. I think there's two main issues with it. And the first is the tongue. Now, some of the criticism of this has been the tongue is too short. I actually don't find that the case. I don't really have any issue with the tongue being too short. It is a low profile. It does sit really low on the ankle, and it does create a very seamless line with the ankle padding in the shoe. I don't really find that. I'm not getting any lace bite. I don't use the runner's knot, but I do use this extra hole here. I'm not getting any problems with lacing. So I don't really see this as a problem. The bigger issue, and this is what people have complained about more about this shoe, is that there's no gusset in this tongue. It's a very floppy tongue. If you ever ran in the Adios Pro 3, you know how hard it was to get the tongue in the right place. This one is similar. It's better. It's not quite as floppy as the Adios Pro 3. But when the shoe is new, the tongue does want to fold under, and it does take a little bit to get in the right place once you put your foot in. But once the shoe breaks in, it gets a little bit better. Now, a lot of people are saying they want this to be a gusseted tongue. I'm a runner who doesn't really care one way or another about a gusset in a shoe. In fact, I kind of like shoes that don't have a gusset because I think it makes the upper simpler. Because when you put a gusset in the shoe, you just create a lot more complexity in the midfoot of the shoe. And this shoe is so simple that I just think it wouldn't work. The one thing I would say is the tacking that they do in the Adios Pro 4, where there's a little stitch here and a little stitch here that keeps the tongue in place, that would be a nice addition on this. And hopefully, if there is a version 2 of this shoe, they will kind of resolve that tongue a little bit better and just make it a little bit more stable. But let me get into my biggest complaint about this shoe, and probably the only complaint I have about this shoe, and it's the fit. Now, this upper, as much as I like the textile, I like the simplicity of the upper, the one problem with it is there's just way too much volume in this upper. It has a very strange fit on the foot. Now, when I first bought this shoe, I actually bought this pair. This is a US men's size 9, true to size. And I put 50 miles, a little bit over 50 miles into the shoe. So the bulk of my review is actually in this pair. But over the last day of running in this shoe, getting it to 50 miles, I was curious what a size 8.5 would actually feel like, because the problem I was running into with the fit of the Evo SL was that for the US men's size 9, true to size, it was a fine fit. I didn't have a single problem with the fit of the shoe other than there was too much volume here in the forefoot. Really, from the ball of the foot forward, there's just too much volume. There's too much material in this upper, but it didn't cause me any problems. It didn't really aggravate me. It didn't cause any blisters. It didn't really cause any issues. I had just fine lockdown. In fact, as the shoe broke in, molded to my foot, the lockdown was totally fine. But I want this shoe for fast running, for tempo running, threshold running, faster than that. And when I found I was doing that in the US men's size 9, I found I wanted a tighter fit. I wanted more of a race fit, not a training fit, more of a race fit. That's why I tried 8.5 to see if that would give me a more race-like fit. Now, the US men's size 8.5, half size down from my normal size, isn't quite the race fit that I wanted, but it does fit me better. There's better lockdown in the midfoot, and some of the volume is taken out in the forefoot area. Not all of it, but enough of it. More importantly, the rocker in the shoe is just that much further back from the ball of my foot. We're probably talking a few millimeters here, that this shoe now just runs much more performance oriented, much faster. In fact, the first run that I did in this US men's size 8.5, I set a 2-mile PR on a hilly, very hilly route. That kind of proved that the smaller size is the better fit for me. If I take the two pairs of Evo SLs that I bought and I compare them to my US men's size 9 Adios Pro 4, you can see that there is a large range of length in these shoes. Even my US men's size 8.5 Evo SL is still longer than the Adios Pro 4. Some of that is the geometry. There is a little bit more toe spring in the Adios Pro 4, but still, a smaller size shouldn't be longer than the larger size of the Adios Pro 4. And then you can see in the Evo SL US men's size 9 that it's considerably longer. And when I put the 8.5 and the 9 on foot, I can definitely see that the 9 is longer. So my advice on fit and sizing for this shoe is this. If you are looking at this shoe as a training fit, or you like your shoes to fit looser and larger, go true to size. If you're going to use this shoe more for performance running, truly as the tempo trainer that it is, and maybe even race in this shoe, I would recommend at least trying on half size down from true to size and see how that fits. If you have enough length for your toes, I bet it's going to be a better fit. Moving to the midsole of this shoe, this is where the real magic of this shoe is. This is a one-piece Lightstrike Pro Classic midsole. Now, what do I mean by Lightstrike Pro Classic? This is actually a slide out of a video that's going to be launching sometime in February around Lightstrike Pro foam and where I think Adidas is going with all of it. But for the sake of this review, we need to define the 3 Lightstrike Pros that Adidas currently has in market. The first one is what I'm just going to call Lightstrike Pro. That's the 2025 formula of the supercritical TPEE foam that's found in the Adios Pro 4 and Adios 9. This is very soft, very bouncy with a very high energy return, and the durability is unknown. Then there's what I'm going to call Lightstrike Pro Classic. That's also a supercritical TPEE foam that's found in the Adios Pro 3 and the Evo SL. That's that classic firm and dense with great energy return and very high durability Lightstrike Pro we all know and love. And then there's a third Lightstrike Pro, which Adidas actually does call and label Lightstrike Pro Evo. That's the foam that's in the Evo 1 and now Evo 2. That is a supercritical TPE, or it's a PIBA, or maybe it's an ATPU, or it's really whatever Adidas wants that to be because that's their development platform and they're playing with different foams there. But generally, they're going for something very airy, very lightweight with extreme energy return, and they don't care about durability at all. It's all about performance for that version of Lightstrike Pro. And that distinction in what actually Lightstrike Pro is and what's in what shoe is really important because this is the older Lightstrike Pro. This is Lightstrike Pro Classic. This is the Lightstrike Pro that I think anyone who's run an Adizero for the past 2-3 years has really fallen in love with. That's what's in this shoe. It's not the new super bouncy, super soft foam found in the Adios Pro 4. It's the older one that everyone really loves. And it works brilliantly in this shoe. Now there's 2 things in play here, and you can see them both in this image. Now this image and the following couple images are all from RunRepeat as well. Again, highly recommend checking them out. Link in the description to the Adios Pro 3 and Evo SL reviews on their website. Definitely go check those out. But here's a cutaway of the Evo SL, and you can see 2 key things in here. One, there's no stiffening agent in here. This is one continuous piece of Lightstrike Pro Classic. Now, there's 2 details in this, though, that are important. Look in the forefoot, you can see those channels right under the ball of the foot. Those are flex channels that are there to make the shoe flex more naturally underfoot, and you definitely notice that. If we look at the cutaway of the Adios Pro 3, you'll see that those were not there. So this shoe always felt a little bit firmer in the forefoot. Now, that's not only because of the carbon fiber rods that are in the Adios Pro 3, as you see in the Evo SL. There's no rods in this shoe, but that makes the Lightstrike Pro Classic foam flex that much more. The other key detail that you can see in the midsole of the shoe is right there in the midfoot. Yes, there is a midfoot shank in this shoe and it's top loaded right under the arch, but that is not a stiffening agent. That is a stability agent. That's there to control the torsional twist of the shoe only. It's not there for propulsion. It doesn't change the ride. It's not a stiffening agent. You can see it from above here where it actually sits directly below the arch. But it's very different from the energy rods that you find in the Adios Pro 3, and it is not the same thing. But if we go back to this cutaway of the Evo SL, that combination of a pure bed of Lightstrike Pro plus those flex grooves in the forefoot of the shoe that allow it to flex more naturally are really what make this shoe feel the way it does underfoot. And I'm going to say the feel of this midsole is springy. It is that pure Lightstrike Pro feel that I think we all have wanted to experience for the past few years. Finally, it exists in this shoe. So when you impact the ground in this shoe, it is that classic Lightstrike Pro resilience of strike and then immediate energy return. It's like a coiled spring. It's a strike and up. There is no delay. There is no sort of off cadence feel. It's just strike and up. It's a very sudden, springy, very resilient ride, and it is a ton of fun in this shoe. Now I'll get more to how this shoe actually runs in the ride section, but that springy feel that we all thought Pure Lightstrike Pro would have, this shoe definitely has it. And ending on the outsole of this shoe, I think this is the outsole that most people have always wanted also on an Adizero shoe. One big, beautiful piece of continental rubber under the forefoot with two pieces on the heel that give good heel coverage, no cutaway in the midfoot, so this shoe has more stability, and it's all exposed Lightstrike Pro Classic, which we know is durable. It's tank-like in its durability, so you know this outsole is going to perform, and it performs extremely well. So let's finally get into the ride of this shoe, and this shoe has been beyond impressive to me, and I've been trying to think of a way to explain what this shoe feels like, and the best way I've thought to do that is with this equation. And the equation goes like this. Start with the Adios Pro 3 midsole, that endless foam feeling of the midsole. I think any of us who ran in that shoe remembered how amazing the midsole of that shoe felt. Even with that awful upper, we still put up with the upper because the midsole was just so good. So take the endless foam feeling, now add in some Nike Invincible 2 or 1, but I spent more time in the 2, that dynamic fun of having a super foam underfoot with no stiffening agent where it kind of felt like it was going to go every direction all at once, but that was fun. It was dynamic. It was exciting to run in. Add those two together. Now divide it by Nike Vaporfly Next% 2, specifically the 2, that nimble precision of that shoe. You get the Evo SL. The Evo SL is the real deal. It truly is a performance shoe. It's a tempo trainer, and it's probably one of the best tempo trainers really to come out in the super shoe era. And I'm going to argue that it's probably the best Adizero shoe to come out maybe since 2017. Big claim, but yes, I do think this is probably the best Adizero shoe in the modern era, even over the Evo 1. And I'll get to the comparison with the Evo 1. This shoe is so dynamic, so much fun to run in. It is a bit of a handful because you have Lightstrike Pro, which has that very spring-like instant energy return. And yeah, this shoe definitely feels like it wants to go everywhere all at once, but that's fun. It's exciting. I think that's what a lot of us always wondered what Lightstrike Pro with no carrier foam, no stiffening agent would feel like. Well, now we know, and it feels absolutely amazing. Now, the magic of this shoe and what really got dialed in when I went down half a size to this US men's size 8.5 is not only the foam, the pure Lightstrike Pro Classic foam, but the geometry. This has the new 2025 geometry, the same geometry from the Evo 1 where the rocker point is moved back, really around, if not a little bit behind the ball of the foot. So as a forefoot striker, I am getting up on my toes and I am really finding this very soft, springy platform to really drive my foot into the ground and really pop off the toe. It's everything I expected Pure Lightstrike Pro to be, but with this geometry, it's even more aggressive. This shoe is so amazingly fast for me. If you follow me on Strava, link in the description, I was writing descriptions of this shoe post all the testing runs that I was doing, and I think I called this shoe a weapon at least 2 or 3 times in those notes, in those workouts, because this shoe just felt like it's probably the fastest shoe that I've run in quite some time. But when I was testing out heel striking or midfoot striking in this shoe, I also found it very responsive. As a heel striker, the heel bevel, the lateral heel bevel in this shoe isn't as extreme as some other Adizero shoes. So I found the transition really nice, bringing me through the foot, and that's where this geometry really engages and rolls me off the toe. Now this shoe is a little bit firmer because it is Lightstrike Pro Classic, so I'm getting all of that loading of the foam and I'm rolling now. I'm not springing off the toe, I'm rolling off the toe, but I'm getting all the resiliency of Lightstrike Pro Classic. Feels great for heel striking. For midfoot striking, I'm landing on this big bed of foam, I'm compressing all of it, rolling forward, and now I'm springing off that. this shoe just worked for all of those. And something I've been very critical about for Adizero shoes, particularly since last year, mostly the SL2, the Takumi Sen 10, and this year the Adios Pro 4, is that I just don't think they work well for anyone who has even mild pronation issues. But I can happily say that I do think this shoe will work for people with mild pronation because there isn't a big medial cutout here. There's a little gap here, but this isn't massive. And there is a little bit of a medial heel flare in here, and there is some structure in the medial arch and heel of the shoe, which keeps the shoe from rolling inward like a lot of other Adizero shoes. In fact, this shoe actually tries to pitch you outward a little bit. I supinate very slightly, and this shoe actually works really well for my sort of gait and how my foot strikes the ground. So if you are a runner who wants to be running in an Adizero shoe, but you just can't make some of them work, this is one that you should definitely give a try because I think it may work for pronators. I did say that this isn't a daily trainer, and I'm going to stand by that. This is not a daily trainer. This is a true tempo trainer. But because it is non-plated, because it is flexible, because it does put a lot of emphasis on you using your foot and building foot strength in this shoe because it is flexible, even with this high stack, there's still quite a bit of flex in this shoe. I'm going to say that this is a shoe you can use for daily training. If you want one shoe to do everything in, this is a really valid candidate. The problem with using this shoe that I've found as a daily trainer, and for that's mostly easy running, is that it's way too easy to run fast in this shoe. I've gone out on easy runs in this shoe intending to go with my easy pace, and then before I know it, I look down at my watch and I'm going well faster than I really should be for easy because it's just so fun to run in, and the shoe just wants to pick it up. It just wants to go fast. You will continually be fighting this shoe to go slow, to go easy, as you should on your easy runs, because it doesn't want to go easy. It can, and after about 45 miles or so, when the shoe broke in and molded to the bottom of my foot, I found this shoe a little bit easier to go easy in because, again, it felt like it was part of my foot, not kind of on my foot. But this isn't a shoe that I would recommend as your only daily trainer. Though if you do want one shoe to do everything in, or you're going to go do a long run where it has an easy warm up and cool down and easy in between the sets of tempo or threshold work, this is going to be a great option for that. For speed work, tempo, threshold, and faster, and we're talking, steady pace into marathon pace and well into 5K pace, this shoe is absolutely brilliant. I did find this shoe likes to be in around threshold. So for me, that's marathon pace, getting into half marathon pace. This shoe just wants to sit there and go kind of forever. That endless foam feeling coming from the Adios Pro 3 just keeps ticking this over, and it just feels great. When you pick it up to get into 10K, 5K pace and beyond, the springiness and the resilience of this foam and the geometry don't really fight me. I think the resilience really works quite well for that. Usually shoes with a big rocker like this, I don't like for really fast running. This still isn't going to be my first choice for like true speed work, faster than 5K pace, but it does it, and it does it quite well. And that's where I can see this shoe being a really valid race option for really any type of runner. I think for a non-elite runner, someone even, 2:30 marathon and slower, I don't see any drawback in racing in this shoe over a Adios Pro or a plated shoe from another brand. I think for a real elite getting like 2:15, 2:10 faster than that, you're not going to see any of them in this shoe. They're going to be in the Evo 2 in 2025. But for a 2:30 to 3-hour marathon or anything slower, I think this is a really, really valid option. And I don't see any drawback in running in this shoe, especially if you're a runner who responds really well to Lightstrike Pro Classic foam, or you miss the feel of it and you just don't quite like the new formula of Lightstrike Pro. This is going to be the shoe you want to take a look at. It's early days yet with this shoe, and I will admit I came into this shoe with a big prejudice because of the marketing, because of the horrible launch, just because of all the hype around this shoe. I just could not see how it could live up to that. But it's not only lived up to the hype, it's exceeded the hype in my mind. This is just, I cannot express how much I've enjoyed running in this shoe and how refreshing I actually find this shoe in 2025. Now, I'm going to be doing a bunch of versus videos comparing this shoe with basically every other shoe, because this shoe does kind of compare to really every other shoe out there right now. And over the course of 2025, there's going to be a lot of content around this shoe, and this shoe is going to pop up in a lot of videos because it's going to be a staple of my rotation for quite a bit of 2025. It is that good. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.